Hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to a new edition of the EKN Debrief. It is episode number 120 as we get set to cap off this 2023 season. Tuesday, October the 10th, 2023. Rob Howden here, and David Cole, of course, will be joining us after we roll off the intro. He was trackside of the United States Pro Kart Series Carolina Grand Prix this past weekend down at Trackhouse Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. The finale for the USPKS program. So a good one here. A lot of action happening down in North Carolina. We'll talk all about it here in episode number 120. This week's show is presented by Mega Power Engines. For over 20 years, Greg Bell has been building race-winning power for kart racers. The name on this program, Mega Power. If you want to win shifter kart races, it's time to put Mega Power on your kart. Mega Power specializes in gearbox engines such as the TMKZ, Rock Shifter, and IAME Shifter. But with almost 3 decades of engine building experience, Bell develops winning motors for X30 and Mini Swift and everything in between. Increase your odds of winning in 2023 and 2024 by calling Greg Bell today at 209-747-2613 to put Mega Power in your corner. All right, David Cole, let's roll into this overview of the 2023 finale for the USPKS, the Carolina Grand Prix. October 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. This past weekend, you were trackside at Trackhouse Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. I think a couple of times, maybe in the 1 minute flat, you may have started with GoPro, but you corrected yourself back to Trackhouse.
I think it was just the letter G. I think I just began with the and then retraced my steps back to remember where we were at, which was the Trackhouse Motorplex in Race City, USA. The 11th time United States Pro Kart Series has been there. It is basically the unofficial home. This series had the inaugural event there back in 2013 and wrapped up the 2023 season this past weekend. And anytime you're there in October, you're not quite sure of weather. It was colder mornings, but luckily sunshine all throughout the weekend. So it did warm up throughout the day. And then once the sun went down, you had to bring back the coats and get warm again. So perfect weather aside if you're not a fan of cold mornings.
Interesting weekend, David. Obviously, this was round 5 of the 5-round championship program. The series counts the best 4 events of 5 towards the championship. I know you said during the 1 minute flats and some of your coverage coming into the weekend that a lot of the categories were essentially almost locked in terms of the championship. There were a couple that were wide open to the point where multiple guys, not just 1 or 2, were still in the hunt, but like 6 or 7, I think you said, in one of the categories, were still in the hunt for the championship when you rolled in for the weekend.
Yeah, well, I'll talk a little bit more about that when we wrap up. But yeah, I mean, that it's a different format. They added a 5th event, so. And then obviously the format of the weekends having 1 main event per weekend. So it was kind of a new series in a way, but not really because it's still the United States Pro Kart Series, but the format and that's something that, was talked about throughout the weekend, of course, being the finale. And yeah, we'll get into a little bit more about that later, but yeah, so it made for, basically for a lot of people, it's a one-off weekend. They're going win or bust.
Yeah, for sure. Let's have a look at the numbers. Overall, the USPKS, a fantastic season. Every one of their 5 events, over 230 entries. The lowest was Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati at 231. Actually, Trackhouse, this event ended up being the second lowest of the numbers, but that's something over the years we kind of always expect for a finale. Drivers who are out of the championship, back to school, budget reasons, whatever it may be. Overall, the numbers at Trackhouse, 273 entries. Obviously, the high water mark starting off the season at Orlando, over 300. A nice a little bit of a dip, but a good run there through Speed Sports in Texas and Newcastle at 284 in Texas and 287 in Indiana. But David, 273 drivers to cap things off at Trackhouse. You and I talked about the fact, pardon me?
Entries,
not drivers. Entries.
Got it.
We talked remember that. I know, 100%. I get it. We talked about the fact that in cadet, 81 drivers ended up being total in the cadet classes over micro and mini, which is amazing. And then you just look at the KA 100 junior and master category where you're at 113 drivers combined for junior and senior. So again, big numbers over the 8 categories.
Yeah, that's the core of the United States Pro Kart Series throughout the season has been cadet racing and the KA 100 categories. Yep. Not necessarily Masters. It's kind of been there in either engine selection back when it was the X30 and still now with the KA. But we did show a peak of 27 at the beginning of the year. So it has that, again, that potential of continuing to grow. Maybe not like KA 100 Senior, where it was at the event high of 58 drivers competing. So again, yeah, a great base in those 4 categories of KA 100 Senior, Junior, Mini Swift, and Micro Swift.
Yeah, 18 in X30 Junior, 37 in X30 Pro, so a good number there. It was kind of really steady. The only big drop off really was at Cincinnati, where they only had 22, but 39 at Orlando, 37 in Texas, 36 at Newcastle, 37 at Trackhouse. So overall, the X30 Pro is still kind of steady throughout the season. We talked about K100 Masters falling off a little bit at the end of the season, but they had 27 drivers there, so there is interest there. We know that. And then, of course, David, let's talk about Pro Shifter. I know we're going to dive into all the categories, but let's wrap up this initial segment of this episode of the Debrief with Pro Shifter. They ended up having just 10 drivers trackside. Was there any, did you talk to a bunch of guys? Was it budget? Were guys looking forward to the Vegas events? What was the reason for the drop to just 10 Pro Shifters?
Well, I wouldn't be able to talk to them because they weren't there.
I realize that, but
work on your questioning, Rob.
No, listen. Or were some of them there trackside doing something else, like a Marian Kremers, right?
Marian wasn't expected to even race on the weekend. I will talk about that more in the Paddock Pass, but yeah, I mean, I look at the calendar. You're 2 weeks away from Rock Vegas, so there's a lot of competitors that are saving up for that, and not to mention Supercarts USA. Super Nationals 26 2 weeks after that as well too. So again, and we've talked about this many times, is shifter kart drivers do not race many events throughout the season. They select where they want to go, and we're lucky to have 10, because if it wasn't for the 3 GFC drivers that showed up, it would have been at 7. So in a way, it was a good boost to have Gary Carlton and his crew there racing in the category. Otherwise, it would have been a really low number for this division. And again, that was one of the focal points that I was talking about when they said they were going to add Pro Shifter. I'm like, you have 5 events. A lot of these guys won't even go to 3 events. And I think that's kind of the situation, especially with as many races as we have going on in the country. I think that's part of the issue. You can't race. Pro Shifter is the elite category in terms of budget racing, because you're spending a lot of more money than you say are for K100 Senior or even for the X30 program. So that has a lot to do with it. So, it's still kind of a tug of war, SCUSA, USPKS, both now having shifter categories. That's, over 8 weekends, and 10 if you count the Winter Series program as well too. So that's a lot for shifter racers. And a lot of them are kind of picking and choosing where they go. We've seen that with the entry list.
For sure. All right, when we get back after this first break in the action of this edition of the Debrief, we will jump into the Paddock Pass. David's got lots of stuff to talk about from being down at Trackhouse. Stay tuned. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network. Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and a Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the junior, senior, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for the 2023 season include the Ignite Majors, which begins with the annual trip to the Daytona International Speedway as part of the WKA Daytona Kart Week as part of both the sprint and road racing events. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the regionally based Ignite Challenge, which just finished up a record-setting season in 2022. Local club programs have also been established in other states all across the country, from Idaho to Texas, Nebraska to New York, with more tracks and clubs joining the Ignite Karting program. Be part of fast fun and great memories with Margay Racing at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite Kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and out onto the track in 2023. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. History, success, family. Those are the three words that can describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation located just outside of Indianapolis has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. From full karting packages, new engines, spare or replacement parts, and safety gear, find it all at CometKartSales.com. Their Comet Racing Engine service has won multiple major events and championships over decades of karting and continues to offer the best trackside service in the industry, specializing in IAME X30, IAME Swift, and other 2-cycle power plants. Make sure to head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. Acceleration Kart Racing is your first and only stop on the internet for karts, parts, and the safety gear you need to get you on the track. Visit shopakr.com for a great selection of karting equipment on a user-friendly website. Acceleration Kart Racing has aligned itself with many of the top manufacturers and distributors in the sport to ensure all the latest equipment is available to you, the racer. With over 20 years in business and customer support available 6 days a week, you can be confident about getting the right parts at the right price when you need them. Be sure to visit shopakr.com today or stop by their headquarters in Las Vegas. Make sure to follow Acceleration Kart Racing on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest specials and new arrivals. Welcome back to episode 120 of our EKN Debrief, our post-event race recap podcast. Again, this broadcast brought to you by Mega Power Engines. Big shout out to Greg Bell. The Paddock Pass, though, presented by Factory Karts. Made in the USA. It's not just a statement, it's the mission at Factory Karts of America. Led by 4-time Supernats champion Billy Musgrave, Factory Karts manufactures their frames completely in-house at their Riverside, California facility. Built and designed from the ground up specifically for the American karting market, Factory Karts brings new innovations and solutions that are long overdue. No other karting manufacturer stands behind its product as Factory Karts does, providing a 2-year warranty on all their frames. Learn more by visiting factorykarts.com or email Billy at any time at info@factorykarts.com. All right, David Cole, lots of stuff going on. The Paddock Pass, you got what? Looks like you got 6 notes here to bring in. Let's talk about stuff that happened away from the actual racing itself.
Well, to begin with, the new name, same racetrack, was one of the titles I came up with coming into the weekend. You know, it is a new name for the Trackhouse Motorplex. We knew it as Mooresville Motorplex when it first opened back in 2012. And then after that, it was GoPro Motorplex for the longest time. So it was good to see the new branding across the racetrack. Obviously, they have all the swag they have there at the racetrack, on the actual racetrack with the start finish line with the Trackhouse Motorplex name across of it as well too. So that was kind of a focal point entering the weekend, was the series going back to what is the unofficial home, but with a new name for the racetrack. And I still say this, they have the greatest idea. They have Hunt Brothers Pizza in there. I'm telling you what, man, you just go in there, you pay $4 for a little slice of pizza. I don't know why more racetracks don't have this. Hunt Brothers pizza needs to be at every racetrack. It's just a great idea because, you know, come Sunday when we're doing 4 straight hours of racing and no lunch break, it's easy to just hop in, get a hot and ready pizza from Hunt Brothers Pizza. It was awesome.
There you go. And that's right up your alley too, which is perfect.
Of course it's up anybody's alley except for my son who doesn't eat pizza, but that's a whole nother podcast to get into.
So you, listen, a good weekend for you, obviously. You're slamming out slices of pizza, and then you head over to Chris Knockman and he's making smash burgers for you.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Dude, this is like a win-win.
Michigan whomped on Minnesota. The Bears won Thursday night as I was traveling there. I mean, this was almost like a picture-perfect weekend for
me. Good man. All right, so what's next up for Paddock Pass? Because again, I kind of alluded to it already with Martin Kremers.
Yeah, so that was one of the topics we had in the outlap. We weren't sure if he was racing, he didn't get back to us, and a message that we sent to him. And then after we had recorded, we got the message that he was entering X30. Talked to him trackside. It was kind of a last minute deal. He was actually scheduled to work with Anthony Martella.
Yep.
As a basically driver coach data guy for him and for the rest of the PSL Mark Steele Racing and Speed Sports operation that was there for the weekend. But they were like, hey, we got a cart. Let's put you in it. And so he didn't have any of his racing gear there because, again, wasn't scheduled to even race.
I saw that.
So he had to borrow Henry Wheeler's spare helmet and essentially use Mark Steele's race suits to be able to race on the weekend. So it was, so Pro Shifter was not in the bag for him. It was off the schedule, just came off the World Championship. Basically the championship was already AJ Myers to have. And I think the idea was to not put the resources into another weekend of racing and save it for the upcoming one-off events. But yeah, got to get back into the single speed side of things. Did that all last year, did double duty. And again, was one of the factors all season long, and kind of kept himself up towards the front and in the top 10 all weekend long.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Again, Martin Kremers, we know, is an incredible talent, and good to see him jump back behind the wheel. Speaking of incredible talents, one of the things, David, that we found very interesting, we saw it first at the Race Rotax U.S. Trophy Final, where Ernesto Rivera, who really has been the top junior driver in the country since winning the Supernats last year and winning multiple races and championships this year, graduating up early, jumping up into the senior category. Ernesto did, and he wasn't the only driver that did that on this weekend either.
No, he wasn't. Underneath the Rollison Performance Group tent was Max Taylor, a guy you're familiar with on the USF championship side of things. Max moved up from the junior ranks to race in the senior category as well. So again, working with the drivers, Hayden Jones moving over back to Rollison Performance Group for the weekend, and a number of other drivers in that X30 Pro category underneath the Rollison tent. Also in the cadet divisions, we were talking about Enzo Di Janeiro, not on the micro list, weren't sure about that. Ended up, he moved up, was in the championship in a micro, obviously not able to win the actual title, but be in the top 5 or improve his position within the top 5 of the standings. He actually moved up to the mini Swift category during the series finale. So that was an interesting move, just something that the family wanted to do. And we'll talk about championship later, but I think he fared off pretty well in mini. I think he finished within the upper half of the field.
No, the interesting thing, Dave, the note there is drivers graduating early, because we do always see drivers move up, but normally they'll wait till one of the Vegas races, right? In years past, it's always been the Supernats. The driver would, run junior, whatever, and then debut into senior at the Supernats, right? Get the championship done, whatever it may be. We've seen a lot of drivers do that, but obviously a couple of them doing it a little bit earlier in the season with the U.S. Trophy Final at Newcastle, and of course here at Trackhouse as well. One of the other notes, Dave, you talk about a super sub. Give me some information on what happened with Ashton Woon.
Yeah, that was another outlap topic that we had, because Ashton Woon just had his cast taken off after suffering a broken arm a month ago. Was on the entry list, and then was there this weekend, but only did a qualifying session to be able to have his name on entry and as the official driver, but had Tristan Murphy come in and be the sub for him on the weekend. So Woon not exactly up to the physical regimen to be able to race, but was able to get out there and get a qualifying lap or two in. But had Tristan Murphy race the rest of the weekend for him as his sub.
Interesting. All right. Well, one of the things, obviously, with Trackhouse Motorplex, and we see it all the time. I was talking to my mechanic at the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals, Taron Odom. He talked about the fact that there's a bunch of guys in the Cup Series and Xfinity that come out on a regular basis. I think it's a Tuesday night deal where they come out and they pound a bunch of laps out. Taryn and the crew get the karts all ready. So there's a lot of drivers in the NASCAR family, the NASCAR community, that really leverage Trackhouse to come out. And, it's good for the road racing, right? Good experience, good quality testing as well in terms of just being able to do the road racing stuff. Tell me, a lot of celebs in the house this past weekend at Trackhouse?
Not a lot, but a good handful. Among the one that I didn't see, but it was told, was Joey Logano was there earlier in the day on Friday. And then as the day continued on, I saw Joey Hand, who was actually there not as a racing dad, but they're in the Charlotte area because of the Roval NASCAR race going on in the area. So he was doing a lot of sim work and working with the NASCAR drivers, including Brad Keselowski, who showed up towards the end of Friday and checking out things and seeing. Again, they don't typically see a big, massive traveling event at GoPro. Or see, I did it. Trackhouse Motorplex. So it brought their attention. So he came and checked it out. Had some questions about the race and the sport in general. So it was good to kind of talk with him. Great to have Joey Hand introduce me to him. And then and of course Will Power. That was he was a late entry at Track Entry. Decided to compete in the X30 Pro division. You saw it on social media. He had his social media content there, kind of following him throughout the weekend. It ended a little early for him, but Power was certainly quick. Yeah. And if they would have had, if he would have been in the master category, it probably would have been a pretty dominant performance for him. But Will Power, he loves a challenge to compete against the young kids. Yes, and did that until a lot of them started driving over their heads. So he elected to stand to the side and no longer race the rest of the weekend.
That didn't surprise me at all. Yeah, again, he's they're a bigger fish to fry for Will Power in 2024. Right?
Yeah, a little bit of an important test coming up for Penske Racing.
Yeah. 100%. And one of the things we talked about in the Outlap podcast, and we'll wrap things up here with this Paddock Pass presented by Factory Karts, with the guy that decided to do something a bit different, and that's Dalton Haynes, trying the triple on the weekend. Pretty cool story for Dalton.
It was, I tried to track him down for a photo, but he had new graphics coming in. Well, I didn't have time once he got the graphics in. And then once, of course, we started racing, it's just a chaotic day on Saturday. So we weren't able to get a good photo of him to put up on the actual Paddock Insider and up on social media. But just to see, and we didn't get to follow him too as well. I got a little busy with, getting in there late and not having everything set up. So it took a little bit to do that, but it was cool to see him. He actually had to bounce from Pro Shifter to KA. So they were back to back in sessions. So maybe helped out the K a little bit because he could break in a little bit deeper. I don't know. But and then had two classes in between that and the X30 Pro category. So to run all three senior categories in the same weekend, that was phenomenal. Obviously, it helped being at Trackhouse Motorplex. He knows that place. It's his home racetrack. But was working with Chad Dokken Racing and all three on the Kart Republic. Had Amir with SRP Engines doing the shifter kart. His brother working on, I believe it was the KA, and then another person helping him with the X30 or vice versa, whichever. So, he was busy all weekend long and kept talking to him. Didn't seem like it was wearing on him physically or, endurance wise. So he was, again, we'll talk about him more as we get into the race report.
Yeah, good for him. Again, that wraps things up for this edition of the Paddock Pass. When we get back, speaking of that race report, David mentioned, we're going to get into it. We'll, after this break, talk about X30 Pro, KA100 Senior, and Pro Shifter. All the Pro primary headline categories up next. It's a multi-time world champion, and it's a SuperKarts USA Super Nationals winner. It is Sodi Kart. And starting in 2023, the Sodi brand has found a new home here in the U.S. Sodi Racing USA is the new exclusive importer of the Sodi Kart chassis line under the karting distribution banner, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Sodi Kart is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from Mini to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Sodi Racing USA has already begun establishing its dealer network, working with the Karting Collective on the West Coast and recently signing PK Sport to serve as a dealer and the official race team on the East Coast. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about the Sodi Kart chassis line or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodi Kart, the world leader in the karting industry.
Are you ready to go from karts to cars? Since 1975, the Skip Barber Racing School has taken great drivers and made them champions. Today, we're proud to welcome the next generation of winners. Make the transition from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Formula Race Series. You'll compete at the most iconic tracks in America. Race weekends include your very own equalized Formula 4 race car, a professional crew, expert instruction, video and data analysis, hospitality, and more. This is the place to fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. Sign up today by calling 866-932-1949 or visit us at skipbarber.com.
In racing, experience is priceless. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and we can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. Check out our online store at www.franklinkart.com, where all our products are just a mouse click away. We're constantly adding to the growing product selection on the online store, and we ship daily to ensure products get to you quickly. We specialize in IAME engines, Tillett seats, ceramic products, Driveline branded products, Briggs & Stratton engines, OTK products, and of course, the championship-winning Merlin chassis. In our online store, you'll find a variety of items to fill your karting needs. Franklin Motorsports is also known for our wide variety of services and is home to Innovative Engine Works by FMS, our in-house engine service department. Frame straightening, kart prep, and dyno testing are all services offered regularly at Franklin Motorsports. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. And we're back with episode number 120 of our EKN Debrief, diving into the USPKS finale here at Trackhouse Motorplex down in Mooresville, North Carolina. David Cole with me here. Of course, he was trackside throughout the weekend, so he'll be doing the heavy lifting throughout the day. Into the race report now, presented by Parolin USA. It all started in 1994 when former kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion from karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, and we run a factory race team at all the major Superkarts USA, USPKS, and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2023 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior drivers, the 28mm Opportunity model for our cadet classes, and the Daytona 4-cycle chassis. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. All right, DC, let's get rolling here. And as we do with these debriefs, I'll throw out the headline. You can fill in the story after that. We'll start with X30 Pro, brought to you by Franklin Motorsports. And the headline is this: Jones wins in return with RPG as Norberg takes third straight title.
It was a beginning as the Ryan Norberg show, as he needed to put in a solid performance on the weekend to be able to clinch a third straight championship. Diego Ramos came in as the championship leader, not counting the drop race, and was the kind of focal point throughout the weekend. Unfortunately for him, it was a struggle all weekend long, was never inside the top 10.
Wow.
While Norberg continued to show the way throughout the weekend, ended up setting fast time in qualifying with a 47.062 ahead of Garrison, Braden Eves, Ernesto Rivera, and Hayden Jones. Norberg ended up winning the opening two heat races, trailed by Garrison and Rivera in both. And then in the third heat race, that was probably the more craziest X30 race we had ever seen.
Wow, really?
It was Norberg and Garrison that were able to basically get away, and they pulled out to a 10-second lead over a 10-lap race. Man. Now, the reasoning behind that was the chaos going on behind them. Marnian Kremers up front trying to play blocker, you could say, to try and help Diego Ramos kind of move up through the field a little bit. Not a lot of drivers were taking to that very kindly. So there was a lot of this, a lot of that, all happening all over the place.
All right, then.
Including Ramos actually getting hit and losing a chain going into turn 1. So that kind of was the exclamation point on what was his weekend come Saturday evening, DNFing in that final heat race. So again, not a great weekend for Ramos trying to get that championship. So that set up. So with Garrison taking the win in heat 3, it still put Norberg on the pole position alongside Garrison, with Hayden Jones, who had consistent top 5 finishes throughout the heat race, put him 3rd on the main event grid, with Rivera on the outside and Braden Eves starting from P5. Moving into the main event, it was a great top 4 battle. You had you had Norberg, Garrison, and Jones out front, and eventually Rivera was able to close in and catch those 3 to make it a 4-driver fight. They kind of stayed stable until the final couple of laps when they went side by side, passing. Great race again. All 4 drivers respecting one another. Nothing dirty. Nothing, out of the ordinary. Just good hard racing. Eventually, Jones made a great move going up the hill into turn 3, which caught Garrison, who was leading at the white flag, caught him off guard, just simply put. And Jones was able to get by him and then held on through the closing of the last lap to be able to win by 72 thousandths of a second ahead of Garrison.
Yeah, that run through the final corner, man, everybody was trying to see if there was going to be some contact. See the guys, Rivera and Norberg, were ready to kind of clean things up, right? It was a fantastic final lap for sure.
It was, yeah. And again, respect, they all got out, shook hands, talked about it. It's just, everybody kept saying, Jones, you were just a little bit quicker than everybody. And so he was able to hold that through on the final lap. Yeah.
Big run, of course, for RPG to put the 3 drivers there in the top 4. Dalton Haynes, we talked about him already doing the triple. He ended up P5 on the Kart Republic. Hard charger with Tyler McIntyre, up 15 spots, started 28th, was able to get his way into 13th. So a good run for Tyler on the Tony Kart. But David, in the end, what do you say about Ryan Norberg? Did not get a win on the season, though. He didn't win one, did he?
No win on the season. So that the video that we're putting up today, we'll talk about that a little bit. So it's not exactly the championship how he wanted to win it, but consistency over this new format helped him earn a 3rd straight championship.
Amazing. Diego Ramos ending up in 2nd spot after a rough weekend, as David had detailed. Austin Garrison ends up 3rd. Harley Keeble in 4th, and Brandon Carr rounding up the top 5. Big one for Norberg. 3rd straight championship. What, 8th overall, David, national title now for Norberg, with the ones he's had some SCUSA as well?
Yeah, 3 championships of the United States Pro Kart Series, 5 in Superkarts USA competition.
That's amazing.
And of note, Garrison and Keeble, they only ran 4 weekends. Yeah. So they were all in on their results. Both, I think, were not at the series opener. I think Keeble ran that one, or he might have not been at that race. I'll have to double check that. I can't remember. Let me see here. But yeah, was not at did not run X30 at the opener. So that you'll see that in a few of the championships that we do have, where drivers who only ran 4 weekends were still up in the top 5 thanks to the drop race.
Well, let's jump over now here into KA100 Senior, presented by Mike Doty Racing. Here's your headline: Keeble becomes 5th different winner as Mesa earns rookie season championship.
Yeah, this category, obviously the largest of the weekend, was one of the fun ones to watch, because there was a lot of drivers within the mix that was going to be that were basically fighting to be there for the main event on Sunday. Friday evening, it began with Weston Workman, the Mazda driver, just coming off a win at the SCCA runoffs.
Yeah, how good is that?
Yeah, it was great to talk to him in the post-qualifying interview. He was able to put down a 49.682 lap to secure the pole position at his home racetrack with Timmy Tech and the Kart crew. Mesa in 2nd, not Colin Warren, Eli Warren in the 3rd spot with Adam Brickley and Alex Stanfield making up the Fast Five. You go into the heat races again. The large field provided the A, B, C, D format, or never mind. I'll leave the nickname out because it's swearing. So I will just say me and Allie Long in the scoring room made up a nickname for the group name. So we won't.
You can tell me that later.
So Meza and Massimino, Paulie Massimino, who's running double duty on the weekend, they were able to win the opening heat races. Brandon Lemke, who actually got involved in a wreck in his first opening heat race, he came back to win heat number 2 with Meza adding a second. And then in the third round of heat races, it was Massimino with a second win and Meza picking up a third heat race win.
Wow.
So near perfect points up to that point, as he was only second in qualifying. So he came in, I think it was 5th in the points, go into Sunday. Basically it came down to himself and Connor Ferris as the championship contenders. As championship leader, Peyton Phillips had a disastrous weekend, including the final where he had a wreck in the opening lap. Fell all the way back to the tail of the field and eventually retired early. So it was his drop race. While Meza and Ferris had pretty solid weekends, Ferris was actually started 4th in the main event as he had finishes of 4th, 3rd, and 2nd in the heat races. So again, all the heat races counting towards the points. The better you score there, the better your chances in the championship. So it came down to basically who beat who in the main event. So we're kind of watching that as a wild and, of course, crazy race in K100 seniors going on. Basically who beat who was going to win the championship. At one point, I think it was only 2 points separating the two. I believe Meza in the 2nd spot and Ferris in 3rd, and it gave Meza the championship by just 2 points. So we're kind of watching that as the race was going on. As the race continued, eventually it was Meza and Keeble that were able to kind of break away from the pack as those two ran nose to tail and pushed away from the rest of the group. So that kind of essentially took Ferris out of the championship hunt as he saw Meza and Keeble get away. They kind of kept it clean until the last lap. And obviously Meza made a move for the lead, try and get the victory. But Keeble came back and retaliated really good and was able to get to the lead in the second half of the last lap. And Meza, I think, knowing championship still in the mind, but didn't really even know if he was going to be able to score the championship, kept it clean, didn't make any bad moves, and Keeble was able to go on to score the victory by 0.2 of a second.
That's big, though, for Meza to be able to come away with a championship. Good on Harley Keeble and the Sodi Kart getting yet another win. He's had a tremendous season here running in the USA. A couple tenths of a second over Meza. Dalton Haynes, that triple duty driver, coming home P3. Ferris ends up in the 4th spot. David and Alex Stanfield rounding up the top 5.
Again, Haynes just was able to come up from 6th. So again, was in that mix all race long. I think he was he had fast lap of the race. So one of the quickest drivers on the racetrack. So Ferris lost another spot there. That essentially gave Meza the championship championship title by just 17 points.
17 points. And you think about it, David, that over a body of work over the weekends, right? Where you talk about the points up for grabs and qualifying, all the heat races, it ends up being just 17 points with Ferris over top of Meza. Phillips ends up in 3rd. Peyton Phillips, as you said, a rough weekend all told. 143 back. Shipman in 4th and Braden Eves rounding up the top 5. That's a solid battle. And again, that speaks volumes with this particular approach to race weekends. How you have to be pushing you can't just hang back. Oh, I decided to finish 5th in a heat race instead of 4th, whatever it may be. Like you got to keep pushing all the time.
You do have to keep pushing, or at least maximize your performance without risk, without too much risk. I think that's key part of it. Because you talk about 650 points is a maximum you can leave with, including the number of entries as well. So that was a big part of it. And one thing to mention, 5 different winners in K100 Senior, and I forgot to mention 5 different winners in the X30 Pro category. So I think that's part of why these championships were close coming into the weekend, because when you have that many different winners, the point spread is going to be a lot closer.
Nobody was dominant. Right?
Nobody was dominant, exactly.
Yeah, incredible. Let's shout out to Anthony Martella on the Burrell Art for PSL Karting Hard Charger, up 23 positions. Started back in 42nd and worked his way up into 19th. So a good run there for Anthony Martella, who moved up to senior this year. David, one more class here in the headline categories of this segment here on the EKN Debrief. We'll go to Pro Shifter, presented by SRP Engines, and the headline: Wick goes 2 for 2 as Myers becomes inaugural champion.
Yeah, Wick made his first start ever start at Trackhouse Motorplex. He had been there before back in 2013. I think he said in junior Rotax doing some laps back then with Mike Rollison. They didn't race the Grand Nationals, but did some practice laps there, doing some testing. So it'd been a while since Wick had been back to Trackhouse Motorplex, and loved the racetrack, as you could tell by his qualifying time with a 45.135. He and Jacob Gulick were able to go 1-2 for GFC in qualifying, as Myers, who now calls Trackhouse Motorplex his home racetrack, was in the third spot. Myers got out, however, to the lead in the opening heat race, but engine failure, I believe it was something related to the spark plug. A piece of it broke off and got into the engine. So a tough one for him, as he DNF'd in the opening heat. That allowed Wick and Gulick to go 1-2. But Myers came back to win the second and third heat races with the engine swap. That essentially put Wick and Myers on the front row. Wick getting the pole position, Myers in the second spot. Alan Isambard, the Sodi Racing USA driver, had a third place finish and was able to start third alongside Talon Yako, with Jacob Gulick, who had a DNF in Heat 3 trying to make a pass. Contact happened, ended up on the sideline. So it put him back on P5 for the starting grid. It was a whole shot victory, however, for Wick, as he was able to grab the lead from the start and held off Myers in the early laps. Kind of had about a 5 to 6 kart length lead for majority of the race, stretched it out a little bit more. And then Talon Yako came in towards the end of the race, putting down some pretty good lap times, ran down Myers, and eventually took over the second spot. And that essentially allowed Wick to go unchallenged to the victory. Wick with the fast lap of the race at 45.385. So only 0.2 off what he did in qualifying with the new set of tires. Wick was able to secure his second victory in his second start at the USPKS.
Wow. Talon Yako with the second spot, as they said, getting ahead of AJ Myers late in the run. Both those Magic Kart drivers going at it. Gulick ends up in the fourth spot. And how about this, David? Dalton Haynes, triple duty driver, top 5 in all 3 categories. That is, to me, that's an amazing performance.
Yeah, that was one of the big stories of the weekend, obviously going in, and to be able to perform. And again, qualifying or Pro Shifter, he had speed. There's no doubt about it. He had it. I think it was more consistency behind the wheel in the shifter. I think with more lap times and maybe some more testing, I think he could probably find a 10th or 2 to be able to be right there with Myers and Yako and Wick. So. Certainly he matched the same lap time Jacob Gulick did in the main event. So just wasn't able to get there towards the early part. So there was a bit of a gap between the top 4 and the rest of the field. So great performance by Haynes. It's October. Oh, that's right. Rotax was September. I was going to say October has been his month, but I guess the last month of the year, last 30 days has been pretty phenomenal for him.
And just one of the great stories, I think, of the entire season in terms of karting, right? The win he was able to get at the Miami Grand National event back in the midsummer. And then, of course, getting on Team USA at the Rotax Race Rotax US Trophy Final, and then this tremendous performance. He didn't get a win here, but top 5s in all 3 of those categories. I think just absolutely impressive for Dalton Haynes. There was a hard charger. That was Talon Yako, started 4th, ends up in 2nd, with only 10 drivers in the field. Hard to really throw a hard charger out there. But David, in the end, AJ Myers knocking another championship down, and in the record books, as you will have on your spreadsheet as part of your archives, he will become and be known as the inaugural champion of the Pro Shifter category in the USPKS.
Correct. I just filled that out before we recorded our show because I wanted to be able to look at, some of the past champions that we've had in some of the other categories. But yeah, AJ Myers is the only name in that column in my spreadsheet aboard the Magic Kart as the Pro Shifter champion in USPKS competition.
All right, back for another break. When we get back on the race report presented today by Parolin USA, we'll have X30 Junior, KA100 Junior, and KA100 Masters. More to come on this edition of the Debrief. All over the karting world, everyone knows OTK is the gold standard for quality and performance. In the US, OTK USA is the source for all things OTK. From the legendary Tony Kart brand to the race-winning Cosmic and Prix chassis, and now the new Red Speed and EOS brands, OTK quality is second to none. All 5 brands are winning races and championships across the country in national programs like the Ruck Cup USA Florida Winter Tour and the Challenge of the Americas, the SCUSA Pro Tour and Winter Series, and the Pro Kart Challenge, the United States Pro Kart Series, and the WKA Manufacturers Cup. And OTK products are also front and center on the podium of club and regional races from coast to coast. To learn more about a specific product line, you can find the OTK USA dealer near you, whether it's Tony Kart, Cosmic, Prix, Red Speed, or EOS. Visit www.otkusa.com. Specific chassis territories are still available, so kart shops interested in adding a winning component to their product lineups can contact OTK USA directly. Top-level production with a focus on a single form of motorsport, karting. This is MG Tires. MG Tires USA, underneath the Vantage Karting Group banner, is the official distributor of the MG Tires brand for the United States. MG Tires are the official spec tire in the US Pro Kart Series, Route 66 Sprint Series, Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and countless clubs across the country. No matter your compound preference, MG Tires USA has you covered. Whether it's the medium SH Red or the soft SM Yellow that you find at many karting events in the US, or the super soft green SS and the intermediate white IZ optional compounds, MG Tires USA has your winning set of rubber in stock. Indoor and outdoor rental facilities can now trust MG Tires with their solution to long-lasting and the best performance with 3 different compounds available through the RL line. For more info about MG Tires USA and its extensive list of dealers near you, check out their website at mgtiresusa.com. MG Tires, for the drivers. CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and we're primed and ready for the 2022 season with new material and a never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the continent, reaching every corner of North America. The CRG KT5 is our new chassis for tag and shifter racing, and it's been designed specifically for the US market. The KT5 features 30mm construction with a 32mm front loop to increase front grip. CRG's new VEN 13 brake system is cutting-edge technology, with a master cylinder that allows for pressure regulation within the system. Drivers can customize brake pressure to their own requirements to improve feel and to avoid brake lockup. The kart is finished with new KG 507, 508 bodywork that has refined aerodynamics and reduced weight. For cadet drivers, the 2022 CRG Black Mirror is already logging positive results to start the new season. This chassis will be making big waves in 2022. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel, the standard in quality and performance, is still available. With 4-cycle racing enjoying consistent growth in North America, CRG's FS4 chassis is the ideal choice for racers in brakes and Stratton competition. From pure racing to karting entertainment, many tracks, both indoor and outdoor, have made the switch to the CRG Centurion rental kart line. 5 different models for both gas-powered or electric engines can fit any track's needs for a new rental kart fleet. CRG Nordam has a full inventory of rental karts available for new and existing facilities. For more information on the CRG product line, head to www.kartcrg.com And to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email us at info@kartcrg-nordam.com. Welcome back to episode number 120 of the EKN Debrief. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole. The broadcast brought to you by Mega Power Engines, and of course the Race Report now presented by Parolin USA. We'll jump into the X30 Junior category as we wrap up things. The Race Report of the US PKS finale at Trackhouse Motorplex. X30 Junior, this class on the program, brought to you by Rawlson Performance Group. And here's the headline: Ardiles wins in wild fashion. Tell me more, David.
It was a wild one. Again, one of the lower attended categories was one of the wildest all weekend long. And you got to expect that with the X30 Junior group, as we do each and every weekend. Diego Ardiles, the driver that was quickest in qualifying at 48.782 for his first pole position in the category on the season. Stephen Miller second, Jackson Woolney joining the Speed Concepts Racing Red Speed crew in the third spot, Enzo Vidmontien and Sarah Bradley rounding out the Fast Five. In the heat races, again, wild and crazy. Never quite knew who was going to be able to pull it off. Ardiles held on in the opening heat race ahead of Woolney and Carter McMurray, but it was Woolney taking the the win in heat number 2 ahead of Vidmontien and Miller as Ardiles got shuffled back. And then in the third heat, again, end of the day Saturday, a lot of things happen.
All right, then.
And, it's the end of the day, man. Things can get a little crazy, and that one was pretty crazy. Not as crazy as X30 Pro, but it was a good appetizer to what we were going to see because it was just a class before it. And Carter McMurray able to come away with a heat win. So nice. Ahead of Davin Roberts and Sarah Bradley. This category, that race had a number of different penalties, swerving and contacts. So,
oh, really?
But McMurray actually won it on the racetrack. So it was good to see that. So that set the grid to put Woolney on the pole position for the main event with Carter McMurray on the outside. Stephen Miller and Enzo Vidmontien in row 2, and Diego Ardiles back in the 5th spot as he had a win, a 7th, and 11th going into the main event. So a little bit of a downward spiral for him. However, you just never know when the main event happens.
Very true.
4 drivers were able to break away early, and it was basically a shuffle for position nearly every lap, and that allowed another group that got shuffled back at the beginning of the race to come up and make it a big party up front. And as that group grew, kind of the racing amped up a little bit more and more, and everything basically was decided on the last lap. Some contact with Vidmontien and Miller going into turn number 6 allowed Ardiles to kind of come through with the lead. Well, he went defensive. McMurray made a great move through the double rights to slide up into the lead as he was heading into the final corner. And he just left just enough room for Ardiles to slide back to the inside. So they went side by side through the corner. McMurray made some contact with one of those barriers that are there to kind of mark off the track. What's the word I'm looking for? Track boundary.
Yeah, track limits.
Yes, the track limit. So he made a little bit of contact with that. So this allowed Vidmontien and Miller to try and slide inside of Ardiles on the exit. Well, as you know, you go off the rumble strips and you come back onto the racetrack. It seemed like all 3 of those carts came together going for the same piece of real estate, which was where the runoff meets the racetrack.
Yeah.
So I believe it was Vidmontien that was in the middle. He essentially goes airborne on top of Miller. Ardiles gets the best benefit of it all as he's on the outside and he's able to continue on straight while these 2 are making contact to his right. That allowed Ardiles to get to the checkered flag first for his first series victory in the category. As they continue to wreck behind him, everybody's trying to find space to get around. Nathan Dupuis, who I think he was 8th when the last lap started. Let me double check this. 5th. Moved up to 3rd when the last lap started, but I think he was 8th at one time on the last lap. I don't know. It was just chaotic. He ends up coming through all of that mess to end up crossing the line in second. Davin Roberts third, McMurray back to fourth, and Jackson Wolney fifth as Vidmontien and Miller wreck essentially into what was the flag stand. Luckily, nobody was hurt. Both were able to walk away, but it was just a wild and chaotic last lap.
Man. Well, good on Ardiles for coming away with the race win there. The margin between he and Dupuis getting away from that chaos was less than a tenth and a half, 0.141, the gap between first and second. Again, as David said, Dupuis, Roberts, McMurray, and Wolney, the top five on that one. Hard charger was Ty Fisher, up 10 spots. He went from 18th to 8th. Obviously, the chaos in the final lap bringing Ty Fisher back into the fight. But, David, one guy we didn't talk about in this entire race was Ernesto Rivera. We talked about the fact he'd already locked the championship, moved up to senior. But the top five looks like it helped Wolney work his way up to second overall.
Yeah, Wolney 551 points back in the second spot. Vidmontien in third, Stephen Miller fourth, and Nathan Dupuis in the fifth spot.
There you go. All right, let's move on now to the KA 100 Juniors. A number of the same drivers we'll be talking about in this category here as well. KA 100 Junior presented by BBS Racing Engines. And here's the headline. Vidmontien escapes battle with first victory of the season.
Yeah, again, KA 100 Junior, the second largest category of the weekend. So it did have the A, B, C, D heat format. They were led by Chase Biscaglia, the driver who just came off winning at the Tillotson T4 Nations Cup event. Yeah. Put down a flyer, a 50.317 to be able to set fast time in qualifying ahead of Diego Guillat, Mason Waters, Sebastian Garzon, and Enzo Vidmontien, the fast five. However, in the heat race, Biscaglia had issues, mechanical in the opening heat, and just, again, was not able to kind of keep pace with the field. Ended up actually finishing, I'm trying to find it, 26th, 28th, and 7th. So not exactly the best way to begin a race weekend after qualifying fast times. So in the heat races, however, Guillat was the driver winning all three of his heat races. He won Heat 1, Heat 2, and Heat 3, while Sebastian Garzon won in the opening round. Vidmontien won the other two heat races. So it was Guillat with 3, Vidmontien with 2, and Garzon with 1 when you look at the 6 heat races. That put Guillat in the pole position for the main event alongside Vidmontien, Sebastian Garzon and Mason Waters in row 2, and Ty Fisher with a pretty impressive weekend up to that point, sitting in 5th when they rolled off for the green flag. Fisher was part of the lead pack, including Diego, Vidmontien. I believe Stephen Miller got into that lead pack as well, along with Garzon. So it was a good little battle. Nothing too crazy. Everybody just kind of sizing each other. But their shuffling, however, did allow another group to run them down towards the end. So very similar to what we saw at X30 Junior. This one was the first one, however, so they kind of copied one another. Eventually ended up being Vidmontien that was able to get out to the front of the field and held off all the challenges on the last lap. Drove a really good last lap to kind of keep everybody at bay. They tried some side-by-side moves, just nobody was able to power through or get any help to get through it. Vidmontien was able to cross the line first by 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, good for Enzo there. Good run for him in the Kart Republic. Guillat ends up in second, Stephen Miller in third, Walters fourth, and Garzon rounding out the top 5 in the last main event of the season for KA 100 Junior in the USPKS. David, a couple quick notes here. Hard chargers, a couple of drivers able to go up 28 spots, I believe you have here.
One driver, 28 spots.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go over it. Yeah.
Copy that. So I'll go Walter Jenkins, 28 spots up, yes. 49th to 21st.
Yeah, he was a driver we took a picture of from that last chance qualifier. He literally drove the entire last chance qualifier with a bent axle. It happened during the warm-up lap. I think somebody spun while they were out during the formation lap, and you know, you expect, oh, he's going to pull in. Well, he didn't pull in, and the thing was vibrating violently, but he held enough positions to be able to be one of the 6 transfers into the main event.
Nice.
And then put in a great performance up 28 spots, as you said, to the 21st position for the main event.
All right, what else?
And then the other note I had was Austin Olds passed a lot of karts on the weekend. Ended up his transponder fell off or broke off during qualifying, so he had no recorded lap for the qualifying session. So he had to start all 3 of his heat races from the tail of the field. Ended up getting 19th, 9th, and 9th in the all 3 heat races. So essentially started 25th around there for each heat race. So a lot of passing there. So he ended up starting the main event in the 22nd position and made his way up into 14th in the main event. So a tough start to the weekend for Olds, especially with him in the championship hunt. So he needed to get some points to be able to finish further up than what he did. But great overall performance to finish 14th.
Another look at how important it is for one big race weekend, right? And so we know that Rivera back-to-back win both championships. He won the X30 Junior and the KA100 Junior. So kudos to Ernesto Rivera for a couple of championships there for Rawlison Performance Group. Again, moving up to senior, as we know. But the battle, David, for second, third on back. You talk about Olds being kind of behind the 8 ball. He ends up finishing 4th of the championship points, 32 points behind Stephen Miller into the 3rd spot. So that battle there, Olds could have finished 3rd depending on how the weekend went. But Diego Guillat, you got to give it up to him. What a huge weekend to wrap it all up, David. He ends up finishing with 3 heat race wins and then 2nd in the main event to be able to go to 2nd over Stephen Miller.
Yeah, I really thought he was going to be the driver to beat. I don't know if, obviously when you're up front, no teammates to kind of help you. So he did get shuffled back a couple times, but raced his way back forward, but just didn't quite have enough to be able to get there for the victory. So I expect to see a victory coming out of this kid anytime soon.
Nice. Let's wrap up this segment here before we head into another break with KA100 Master, the category presented by Speed Concepts Racing. Here's the headline. Rawlison claims 4th victory to celebrate championship. In a number of these categories, David, we didn't have X30 Pro, KA100 Senior, 5 different winners. Not the case so much here in KA100 Masters.
It was not the case. Laurentiu Mardan stopped the winning streak for Rawlison back at Newcastle. So, Rawlison still, though, essentially came into the weekend with the championship, but it wasn't mathematically clinched, as Mardan, who only ran 4 races when you counted this weekend. So he still had a mathematical chance, but obviously needed to beat Rawlison on the racetrack and did not do that, as Rawlison set the fast time in qualifying of 50.947 and then went on to win all 3 heat races. So he earned maximum points through Friday and Saturday, putting himself on the pole position for the main event. Danilo Ramallo, the former series champion, was probably the one driver that could really contend with Rawlison. Scott Kopp was kind of right there. He had a 2nd place in the 2nd heat race, so he started 3rd. Ramallo on the front row with Rawlison, but William Isaias, yep. With International Motorsport on the Kart Republic was pretty quick as well too. He started 4th, was kind of showing potential to be able to compete and contend. And then Mardan was sitting there at the start of the main event in the 5th position. Unfortunately, opening of the main event began with a red flag, essentially due in part to Ramallo. To set the stage, main event started at 9:15. Well, colder temperatures, I'm talking, high 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
What do you think of when the racetrack's when the temperature's that cold? What do you think of the racetrack? On the red tires, mind you, the harder,
little slippery, maybe.
Yeah. So he essentially went into the Monza at the end of the long straight with what looked like to have no brakes whatsoever, and nearly just took out Rawlison. Well, as they did, I think he came in, hit the wall, and bounced off, and then went back into the rest of the field, bringing the wall with him. It kind of caused a schmozzle, as Tim Coyne would say it. And Max Pappas, who was in the category, was involved in the wreck, bringing out a red flag due to an arm injury. Not sure exactly the extent of the injury, but was able to be walking around the rest of the day with an arm in a sling. So we'll have to get updates on that. But so the race started in a red flag after completing 1 lap, restarted, and Scott Kopp jumped out to the early lead, got kind of the jump on the restart and was up to the lead showing the way. Rollison, I think, fell back to about midway, but was able to knife his way back towards the front and take over the lead from Kopp. And just after he did that, Kopp came through the turn 1, turn 2 segment, making that curb jump as they all do. And the chain popped right off the machine of Scott Kopp. So put him on the sideline. That essentially put Romalo into the challenger's position. He was able to run down Rollison and take over the lead on lap 15. As they began the last lap, Rollison had Mardan on his bumper. They got together and they worked right past Romalo down the long back straight into the Monza corner. So it put Rollison first, Mardan second, and Romalo in third as they went into the hairpin. Mardan went defensive and Romalo went basically to the grass and just where there was enough room for a cart to kind of get in there. And those two made contact as they went in through the corner. That allowed William Azayas to slide around both of those drivers as Rollison went to the checkered flag, unchallenged for what was his 4th victory on the season. So put a little stamp on the championship for him. Azayas crossed the line in the 2nd spot. Romalo actually finished the cross the line in the 3rd position, but pushback bumper and penalties for contact only at the start of the race were with the incident, and then at the end of the race with Mardan put him down the order. So that moved Nicky Coella up into the 3rd position, Mardan into 4th, and Miguel Mir rounding out the top 5.
There you have it. Hard Charger was Coelho up 6 spots from 9th to 3rd. Mike Rollison with the championship. David, it ended up being 192 points between Rollison and Mardan.
So, yeah, again, heat race points. If Mardan was able to get the 50 points in qualifying and 100s for all 3 heat races, it would have helped. Yep. Not down a little bit more, but it still was kind of out of reach for Mardan, but still, until we got through, I think Saturday, it wasn't mathematically clinched yet for Rollison.
Yeah, cool lineup of drivers too. Rollison, Mardan, Coelho, Mir, and Barrios, your top 5. Mario Barrios was not there on the weekend, but 5th overall in the championship. Bunch of different parts of the country. Obviously, Barrios down from Peru. You got Coelho in Wisconsin, Mardan in Illinois, Mir down in Texas, Rollison, of course, Pacific Northwest. So a really good field of drivers here in our KA100 Masters category. And shout out to Mike Rollison. Again, jumping behind the wheel this year. Wanted to get a better feel for the KA100 Master category for his customers, give them someone to chase as well. So really cool to see David, to see Mike come away with the championship.
Yeah, and that you'll we kind of broke down that philosophy of trying to get more information for the K side of things and to be able to be part of this championship and help the customers excel. And also to add another title for him. So, the 2006 Rotax U.S. Grand Nationals winner now has another notch to his CV.
There it is, folks. Another break in the action. When we get back, we'll wrap up the race report presented by Parallel USA with our reports on both Mini Swift and Micro Swift. Is IndyCar your dream? If it is, for 2023 and beyond, the path from karting to IndyCar has gotten even clearer. It's time to look into the new USF Juniors program and the brand new Tatis JR23. As the first step of the newly rebranded USF Pro Championships presented by Cooper Tires, the USF Junior Series will feature a 6-event, 16-race schedule to train racers for the move into the USF 2000 Championship presented by Cooper Tires. The USF Juniors champion will win a scholarship worth over $248,000, and the total prize fund will exceed $330,000. The series will also debut the new Tatis JR23 race car in 2023, which is a development version of the USF 22 used in USF 2000. It's the ideal entry point for career-minded karters moving on to the car racing ladder. Safety is always front and center in the mind of the series promoters, and the USF Juniors car features a halo, and the races are supported by members of the AMR IndyCar safety team. If IndyCar is your goal, USF Juniors is the starting line. For more information, visit www.usfjuniors.com and follow USF Juniors on social media. Motor mounts. They keep your engine attached to your chassis, right? The answer is they're much more important than that. Your motor mount is critical in transferring 100% of the power from your engine through to your tires and the racetrack. You need this to get on the podium each and every time you race. Odenthal Racing Products is here for you, providing the best motor mounts on the karting market today, all designed to make sure you're using all the horsepower you pay for. Odenthal Racing Products is a family-owned and operated business with decades of karting experience in providing products with unmatched quality and value for our racing community. The Pro Series mount for 2-cycle engines, which is available in 0, 5, and 8-degree inclinations, provides a rigid structure to help keep vibration to a minimum without adding too much weight to your setup. The 4-cycle Easy Set system is one of the most popular mounts for the Briggs & Stratton 206 power plant. Multiple mounting holes provide the most adjustability depending on your chassis and seat placement. To ensure a tight fit to your chassis, our ORP wedge clamps get the job done, and they feature a number of design updates to provide a lower profile and lighter weight. The clamps are available from 28mm to 32mm in both standard and Euro style sizes. And now, Odenthal has also revolutionized the karting industry with its new Easy GP camera mounting system. Designed to mount anywhere on your chassis with 1 or 2 cameras, the ORP Easy GP camera mount is your solution to capture that onboard winning moment. Head to odenthalracing.com and find a dealer near you. Odenthal Racing Products, proudly made in the USA. Cometic Gasket is a leading worldwide supplier of gaskets and engine sealing solutions for karting, automotive performance, power sports, original equipment, and the remanufactured engine industries. Cometic karting gaskets are available as OE replacement top-end kits or as individual gaskets and seals. Just like competitive karters, Cometic can operate on the fly and has the unique capability to customize any gasket to meet specific engine requirements and clearances. All of Cometic's fiber materials are asbestos-free and do not require any additional sealants. Viton oil ring cylinder head seals are used in each 2-cycle kit, and Cometic's 4-cycle engine kits feature only the most advanced multi-layer steel head gaskets. Cometic can tailor to engine builder-specific needs through bulk ordering and packaging flexibility. Cometic gaskets are must-haves for championship-winning teams across multiple disciplines of both professional and amateur motorsports. Cometic Gasket, sealing championships since 1989. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 120 of our EKN Debrief, as David Cole gives us his full report from the USPKS finale at Trackhouse Motorplex this past weekend. The race report brought to you by Parallel USA. Let's move in now to Mini Swift as we cap off our race report with Mini and Micro. Mini Swift presented by DNJ Intermodal Services. Here's your headline: Vega claims first in class.
It was a interesting weekend in Mini Swift because, again, one of the drivers, Lucas Palacio, had essentially the championship wrapped up. So It was kind of the focus on the race more than it was points. And so it looked like a lot of drivers were all in to try and get that victory on the weekend. Travis Pettit being one of them, looking for his first USPKS victory, put in the fast time in qualifying with a 52.792. Ahead of teammate Trinity Karting Group teammate Lucas Palacio. Marco Romero in third. Alessandro, correct? Am I right? Alessandro Pizzoni.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can never say his name.
Antonio Pizzognanito.
That's what it was. Yes. I always forget his first name. I apologize.
That's all right.
With Royce Vega making up the Fast Five and qualifying on Friday evening. Vega and Palacio were the two different winners over the 3 heat races. It was Vega that was able to pick up 2 of them, the opening and the third heat race, while Palacio took the win in the second. Michael McGoy had a string of runner-ups in all 3 heat races, while Palacio had 2 thirds in the races that he did not win. So essentially put Palacio on the pole position, Vega second, McGoy in third, Max Cristia in fourth, and Marcos Sammet in the 5th position to start the main event. Main event time, 3 drivers were able to break away. That included Vega, McGoy, and Cristia as Palacio just kind of fell backwards. Not really sure if it was due to the fact he didn't want to make any kind of issues or troubles because the championship already in hand. Any type of unsportsmanlike conduct or penalties could have cost him the championship. So Palacio kind of fell out of the picture in terms of the race win as these three drivers were able to get away from the rest of the field, which wasn't the case throughout the weekend because all three heat races were heated and contested all weekend long. So this was a different one, just having the three drivers break away. As they did, they kind of shuffled for position, but Royce Vega was the driver with making a statement, able to secure the lead and held on through the last lap as Cristia and McGoy were fighting for the second spot. So that allowed Vega to essentially run unchallenged to his first victory in Mini Swift.
Yeah, big run for Royce Vega to get that victory and also pushes him up into the top 5 of the championship points as well. Max Cristia coming home in second, McGoy, Luke Tal, and Antonio Pizzonia-Nito rounding out the top 5. Pizzonia-Nito actually, David, was the hard charger as well. You mentioned he qualified 4th. He ended up coming up 16 spots from 21st to 5th. Do you have any notes on why he started so far back? Must have been obviously issues potentially in the heat races.
There's 2 letters that would help signify that. Can you think of it?
Throw it out there.
2 letters.
DQ.
What are 2 letters? There you go.
DQ. What happened?
I believe there was an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in the opening heat race. So that put him at the tail of that finishing order. He ran 3rd in the second heat and 15th in the other heat race. So put him back in that 21st position.
There you go. 2 letters. He said, why are you playing games with me right now?
Because that's what I do, Rob. We have to make it fun and play games when we're doing our podcast. We can't be boring and the same old boring stuff. Come on.
Palacio with the championship, as David had already mentioned. Michael McGoy ends up in second spot. Overall, a good weekend for McGoy, as David had said. 3 heat races, finishing P2, and then 3rd in the main event. He ends up topping Cristia in 3rd, Vega 4th, and Travis Pettit rounding out the top 5 in the championship.
And Cristia only did 4 race weekends.
Another
driver who was pretty good throughout the 4 races that he did do. Didn't need a drop, but could have also helped him improve had he had a 5th race weekend.
Let's cap off this race report with Micro Swift presented by Team Ferris Racing. The headline, Ives scores 4th to etch name on championship trophy.
Parker Ives. That's all I have to say.
Perfect weekend.
Perfect weekend. Yeah. That's it. We're done.
Done. Next commercial break.
Basically went unchallenged all weekend long. Never relinquished the top spot.
Wow.
All 3 heat races. And I think he was out to almost a 2-second advantage by the time they came through the opening lap of the main event. So again, made it a somewhat boring race to watch out front, but behind him, obviously, when you got over 40 micro drivers all over the racetrack, there's something to watch with those kids. But behind him, it ended up being, lost his name, Cade Wolf, who was pretty much in the second spot for much of the weekend, qualified second, and was second in the opening heat race, but ended up dropping to 3rd and 7th in the other heat races. He was able to start 3rd place for the main event and was into the second spot early, held that position for the remainder of the race. So essentially the battle was for P3 on the racetrack during the main event. Aston Wyatt was able to secure that spot ahead of Colton Schniegenberg and Isaac Payne in the 5th position.
Hard charger Pasha Ali on the Sodi Kart started in 34th and was able to race his way up into the top 10. That's an impressive run for Pasha Ali. 24 spot improvement. Do you recall what happened in the heat races for him to fall back that far?
Yeah, just qualified 20th, so didn't have a good qualifying session. Finished 20th, 32nd, and then had a DNF in the final heat race. So that will definitely put you further back in the main event grid.
Maxwell Macha did whatever he could in the championship, but it's hard to beat 4 wins, and that gives Parker Ives the championship by 322 points. Aston Wyatt comes home in 3rd, Colton Schniegenberg in 4th, and DeGennaro, as we mentioned before, jumping up into the mini class, ends up 5th overall, did not run the final weekend in micro, went to mini instead. David, there you go. That's the race report. Pretty solid racing, all told, sounds like.
Yeah, 8 categories. Solid racing for the most part. And 8 different 7 different champions, but 8 in 8 different categories as we did have a double champion in 2023.
Ernesto Rivera getting those 2 championships in the X30 Junior and KA100 Junior. Final break in this edition of the Debrief. When we get back, David will wrap things all up. We'll look at the Constructors' Championship, and we'll cap it off with the EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar. In karting, it's important to be supported by the right people. With over 40 years of experience in the sport, Trinity Karting Group has everything you need to make your program successful. We do it all, and we do it right. Trackside support and arrive and drive programs at many of karting's biggest East Coast events, full product sales and service, and professional coaching from our experienced staff. Trinity Karting Group is a full-service operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. This allows us to offer private one-on-one coaching to take you to the next level. From arrive and drive and coaching programs to the parts you need, let Trinity Karting Group provide you with customer service and a racing experience second to none. Trinity Karting Group is an official Kart Republic race team, providing full trackside support at all the major USA karting events, including the SCUSA Pro Tour, United States Pro Kart Series, SCUSA Super Nationals 25, and other events throughout the 2022 season. TKG has in stock Kart Republic, IAME, MG and Avinco tires, and more products for those in Ohio and the Midwest region. Trinity Karting Group has a long history of the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We take pride in our professional approach and our positive attitude. Let us build a custom race program for you. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com.
OpenFender.com is a way for racers like you to raise money to reach your racing goals. I'm founder Mason Filippi of the world's first motorsports funding platform. As a racer, I know that there's a lot we do behind the scenes before hitting the track. Driving fast, winning races comes after a lot of prep, practice, and let's face it, a lot of money. The good news is that fans and sponsors want you to win. They want to help you and be part of your team. That's why I created OpenFender.com, to get these supporters funding your dreams and getting you across the finish line. In a few minutes, you can set up a profile, share it on your socials, and encourage fans and sponsors to boost your racing. Racers using OpenFender are averaging over $1,000 per campaign. This is money that's buying them parts, paying fees, and getting them to the next level. Join OpenFender now and start funding your performance.
Winning takes top quality equipment, flawless preparation, experienced coaching, and passion. And at Team GFC, we live our passion. Developed by American karting champion Gary Carlton, the GFC chassis has become one of the newest brands to reach the top of the podium in North America. GFC has garnered victories and championships at all levels of the sport since its debut at the end of 2018. Shifter car drivers are at the front of the field in the GT14 frame, with the SS31 a consistent contender in tag and 100cc competition. Team GFC has arrive and drive packages available for all categories, including the mini and micro classes utilizing the GFC RR5 cadet chassis. These young pilots have the opportunity to be part of the Team GFC Young Driver Development Program. Learn from one of the best American karters with 28 years racing at the highest levels of the sport, offering personalized training on and off the track. Follow GFC Karting on Facebook and Instagram, or click over to gfckarting.com to learn more about joining Team GFC. GFC, live your passion. Back into episode 120 of the EKN Debrief. Rob Howard alongside David Cole. Let's cap things off from the USPKS finale at Trackhouse. David, let's wrap things up.
A couple of red flags on the weekend, and ironically, they were both in the same family. Max Pappas and Mateo Pappas were the two red flags. Mateo had an incident during one of the heat races that brought out a red flag. Luckily, he was able to walk away, but little cuts and bruises here and there. So all in all, a safe weekend, but it seemed like there was like that end of season frustration throughout the weekend. Just drivers who were, didn't quite be where they wanted to be. Just seemed like, a little bit more aggressive possibly, or But you get that towards the end of the season. Again, Sunday, or really, it was more so at the end of Saturday, and then maybe a little bit on Sunday. But the 30 heat races in one day, that's a lot. And by the time we get to the end of Saturday, everybody's been at the racetrack for 10 hours. It kind of adds up, and especially since we've been busy since the month of January. So this is really the only kind of break we'll have until we get to the couple one-off races to close out the year. So I don't know. It wasn't bad, but you could see a couple instances where you're like, oh, why?
Yeah, you could have gave some room. Yeah, I hear you.
So yeah, but there were a number of penalties put down. I think that's still one of the things that USPKS is still kind of working out is the race direction part of things. There was a number of penalties turned over as well too. So I think they're still trying to find a happy medium with that.
Copy that. Yeah, that's always something you got to work on. David, you got noted here about championship format change needed. Is that a question? Was it a topic? What are your thoughts on that?
It's both, I think. I was asking some people about it because, again, when you go into the series finale, you got to have some drama. You got to. It's still it's still a show that you're putting on.
Yep.
And when you have, 6 of the 8 championships already decided before you put tires on the racetrack, it kind of makes for a less dramatic weekend. And then does it maybe add a little bit more chaos to it? Because everybody's all gung-ho for victory and don't care about points.
Yeah.
So there's talk. Maybe they just don't do a drop race next year. Make it all 5 weekends count towards the championship format. Or maybe do they need to adjust the points system?
Yeah. Little less points in the heat races, maybe, so that you can come in and still win the main event and come away. You think?
Looking at it from a math side of things, I think it's the gap between positions. You look at the points that were up for grabs. I'll kind of bring up the points here. It's 300 points to win, which that's a lot of points, but you're giving out 100 points to win each of the heat races. So I think that's not an issue, but you have 15 points between first and second in the main event. So, and then 15 points between second and third. So it's very similar to that old school WK point system format that just counted to one race. So I think if we closed up the gap and almost made it, hey, one position on the racetrack is 1 point in the championship kind of thing, where you can still do 100 points for a heat win, but make it 99 for second, 98 for third, et cetera, to kind of close that gap. Because as we saw, a driver with 3 wins clinched the championship before you even went into the fifth event. So I think that would close that up and make it more interesting, but it still allows the people who are successful to be able to stay up towards the point. So maybe somebody can do some what's the word I'm looking for? Some trials,
some models. Yeah.
Some models, some simulations for different point structuring and see kind of where things would end up, because I still think the drivers who won the championship deserve it. No doubt about it. But I'd like to see, we did see the drama in KA, so that was good. But not every category is going to have 5 different winners on the year. Yes, we saw it in X30 Pro, but Norberg was the most consistent driver throughout the year, no doubt about it. So, I'd like to see it mix it up. There's other programs, one on the West Coast primarily, the Challenge of the Americas, that I like their point system. We get drama, even though we count 5 of the 6, we still get drama every season that we are there covering it. So. Again, simulations might show some different things and have different outlooks or different outputs, and I don't know. That was kind of my talking with some of the people, but I think if they count all 5, maybe that will be the big changing point in making some of the championships a little bit tighter.
It definitely would. Let's wrap things up on this part, David. 12th season for the USPKS coming up. Not that long. Yeah, it's still 4 or 5 months away, but. Next season, 12th season.
Yeah, April is when the start of the 2024 season for the United States Pro Kart Series begins. So just around the corner.
Yeah, 6 months.
Actually, it will be a longer. it will be a longer off season for the program because they've been starting it in the month of March.
That's right.
So, so it will be a little bit, but still waiting to hear. Talked with Mark Coates. They're working on making sure all the contracts are going to be signed before they announce what locations the 5 race weekends will be at. Obviously, we have some ideas of where they will be, but nothing is confirmed yet. So maybe get that news sometime this month, maybe, or within the next couple of weeks.
Hopefully, yeah, no doubt. Let's look at the Constructors' Championship, David. 6 different brands winning over the 8 categories.
Yeah, Cosmic was able to grab 3 victories all under the Rollison Performance Group tent, so they lead the way for the weekend. Sodi Kart, GFC, Kart Republic, Bennick, and Nitro Kart all picking up a victory for themselves. So 6 brands of the 8 wins.
Wow, big stuff. Good job for Rollison Performance Group there. But again, like you said, GFC coming over, getting that win with Kyle Wick. Sodi Kart's been keep racking up the wins, and we know, of course, Nitro doing a great job in that cadet category.
Oh yeah, and the Geo Cup went to Rollison Performance Group again as well. That's their team championship that they tally up throughout the season. I believe it counts top 3 finishes in every category. So whatever team you're racing for will earn those points, and the Rollison Performance Group earned it once again. I want to say this is the 3rd year, possibly 4th year that they've won it. Wow. I'll have to double check that. I got to put that in my my Excel sheet.
Well, this just rolls in right nicely here, David. EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar brought to you by the Rollison Performance Group. At the Rollison Performance Group, we strive for ultimate success. We're more than just an arrive and drive race team with countless wins in the national and regional level. Our focus is on complete driver development, and that's where the success is fueled. We combine one-on-one coaching, on-track instruction, and intensive data debriefing with unparalleled kart and engine prep. Our program will help you raise your game. We'll take you to the next level. If that's your goal, RPG needs to be your next move. Experience the Rollison difference. And again, this is the EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar, and there is only one more left for us, David, in terms of hitting the road and getting back to the racetrack. November 8th to the 12th, we've got about a month before we head to the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals 26 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Back to the Supernats for me for the 26th time.
Ooh, you're old.
Yeah. And I haven't officially made the announcement on social. I'll do this right after we're done here, but I'm actually not going to run this year. I've decided I raced last year in the KA100 Masters category. I've decided not to run in 2023. It's been a busy season for me. The most events I've done ever in the 8 years I've been doing this. So I'm worn out. I'm tired, and I'm just not going to be good enough for the Supernats. I'm not going to be where I need to be. So, hey, you know what? We'll 100% focus back on my commentating with Kart Chaser and all the guys we have there with Xander and Mike and with you as well. You and I'll be hammering down tons of content planned for this year's race.
Oh, you're going to work with me now instead of race. Dude. Yeah, that'll be nice.
old school.
It'll be old school again. I mean, let's face it. I put you in retirement.
You did. You did.
I just Tony Ventresca'd you.
Dude, I may be back in Masters at CKNA again next year. We'll see how it plays out.
You're going to come back in 2024, come January. You're going to be pounding laps somewhere in Florida,
Probably. California.
I know
That's the idea. But yeah, so that's our next one, David. We're going to cap things off with the Super Nationals. Back out at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. As you had mentioned, I think we talked about this when we were at CKNA. Hopefully, a brand new track design. Like literally blow it apart and do something completely different, right?
It is going to be a brand new track location, track design. We're still waiting to hear from SuperKarts USA on all of that. They do have the pit map out, but no track map as of yet. So we're still kind of waiting on that. It's going to be tight. I can tell you that it's going to be something different that they have not done before, probably. So the same layout that we used at Rio, same layout that we used before going to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, not going to be the same as those.
There you go. All right. So, folks, there you go. That wraps up this edition of our EKN Debrief. David Cole giving us a really deep dive into the USPKS Trackhouse Motorplex finale, the Carolina Grand Prix. Final thoughts, David. All told, again, I saw some of the stuff you posted to social media. You've been part of the USPKS series, covering it here for eKarting News since the very beginning. You were there at what was then Mooresville Motorplex when the series first launched. They were building the scoring tower while you guys were there. You've been in that tower many, many times over the last 11 years. All told, really a banner year for USPKS.
It was, the new change, the expansion of the schedule, the format change. It was a banner year, record numbers as well, too. So that really stands out. But thank you to Mark Coates, obviously Eric Jones with MG Tires USA for their support and continuing to work with us. It's been, a great relationship. I help them, they help us.
Yep.
It's been good, and hopefully for another 11 more years.
That's it. Right? That's it. Again, 12th season coming for the USPKS in 2024, and ekartnews.com will be there as we always are. Thank you for tuning into this edition of the EKN Debrief. We got lots more content coming. We can kind of take a little breather and do some more content because obviously we don't, our next outlap really isn't until the start of November. For the SCUSA Super Nationals. Those of you know, we do a ton of pre-event coverage for the Super Nats, class by class previews, you name it, our predictions, lots coming, of course. But we got some time for that, take a little bit of a breather. It's been a crazy season. David, of course, has been on a long run of races here through the last couple of weeks as well. So we'll give him some time to spend with the family and kind of chill out, enjoy the fall season. Thank you again for tuning in, folks. Big shout out to Greg Bell and Mega Power and Leading Edge Motorsports for sponsoring this particular edition of the Debrief podcast. Lots more to come here on the EKN Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in once again. On behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.